Okay, good afternoon. Welcome to Microsoft Flight Simulator. Here we are in the E2 Honda Jet at Naples in Italy. You can see in the background there Mount Vesuvius. Today we're going to do a fairly short flight over to Palermo in Sicily. We're going to use Simbrief to plan and give us a route, and this flight is just as much to test my connection and things that everything's working alright, so we might be a little bit rusty, but we'll give it a go. So if I open up my iPad view, here we are in Simbrief. So we are here at Lima India Romeo Charlie, which is Naples, and we're going to head to Lima India Charlie Juliet. Lima India Charlie Juliet. And oh, sorry, so we're not at LIRC. There's the first cock-up. So we are actually at Lima India Romeo November. So let me just correct that. Lima India Romeo November. And we are in the Honda Jet. So let me scroll down and find the Honda Jet. So there we are, and let's generate the flight. So it's telling us here, first of all, that we'll be departing from runway 24 and arriving on runway 25 at Palermo. So let me just generate the flight here. So this is generating the briefing package, which gives us all our dispatch information and our route maps, etc. So here we are. The summary of the flight, it will be 38 minutes in the air, and this is kind of our map view. We'll scroll down to Sky Vector and we'll open. So this is our flight route as shown on Sky Vector. So if I open up my navigation, whoops, what's happened here? So let's import the flight from Simbrief. It's Lima India Renault, right, there we go. So we open it here. This is the same information shown slightly differently. We can have a look at the charts. So let's have a look at this is the airport chart for Naples, where we are. Let's close this just now, and we'll come out of this just now, and we will jump into the cockpit of the aircraft. So here we are inside the Honda Jet, which is certified for single pilot operations. That's why I choose to fly this plane. It's not overly complex. Right, so let's turn the power on.
Warning. Okay.
And let the systems initialize. Alrighty, so we are all good.
Pause system test.
Right,
Okay.
there's a few things that we need to run through at the start to set the set everything up. So we'll let the computer run through the pre-flight tests for the fire detection, stall, and switches, etc. You'll see the stick shaker just in a moment. Alright, so those tests are complete. So let's set up our weights, and so we have 170 pounds for the crew. We have one passenger on board who is also 170 pounds, and we have 150 pounds of cargo. The fuel on board at the moment is 1530 pounds. That should be enough. What we'll do is we'll put a little bit more in. Let me just find the right page. So we're now at 2030 pounds on board, so that's fine. Let's go back to the initialization. So the fuel on board now is 2030 pounds. We'll enter that in, and 100 pounds of fuel for taxi. So let's compute the V speeds. V1 is 109 knots, rotate at 113, and our single engine climbs is 120 V2. So let's put them in, and we'll accept the initialization. So next thing, we will program our flight plan. So our origin is Lima India Romeo November. Our destination is Lima India Charlie Juliet, and we're not flying a SID here, so it's straight to an intersection, DELER. That's entered. From there we're going to fly an airway, which is the M742, and we'll exit at ROSAS. So that's entered in, and we will fly an arrival for runway 25. Let's scroll this down, and the arrival is a ROSAS 3 Lima. So let's find ROSAS 3 Lima. So let's load that in, and that's all good. So this middle section here, those charts that I have on my iPad, we can display them here, and it also shows the aircraft as well on the map. So we'll just use the taxi map for now. We don't need to enter in a standard instrument departure map, because we're not going to fly one on this flight. So let's come out of this and go to the checklists. So the checklists are written here on the left hand side of the primary flight display. The before starting engines checklists: battery is on, oxygen is checked on and normal, pressurization is normal, electrical, so everything's in the green on the electrics, that's normal. ELT is normal. Nose wheel steering normal. Landing gear is down. Alternate gear release handle is fully in. Parking brake set. Flaps are up. Thrust levers are cut off. Speed brake is retarded or retracted. Ice protection is off. Fuel panel has, let's just check our fuel panel. Fuel panel is checked. We have 2030 pounds on board, 630 in each wing tank and 770 in the middle. So that's checked. And normal trim panel. Let's set the trim for takeoff just now. But there we are. Trim panel is checked, set normal. Windshield heat normal. Pneumatic panel is normal. Clear panel is dark. Chimes normal, and the avionics initialization is complete. So that's the before starting engines checklist. So let's what we'll do is we have our doors open and stuff here, and we're connected to ground power, so we'll close the doors just now. Let me so main door is now closed. Let's check, and there it's closing. That's it, all closed now. We still have ground power connected, which is fine. So passenger briefing. Whoops, we don't need. Rudder pedals have been adjusted. Seats and seat belts are adjusted and secure. Doors are closed. Parking brake is set. Let's review the CAS messages. Well, there's nothing of any interest just now. The engines are off. Electrical voltage. Let's check the electrics. So we've got 24.8 on both batteries, and we need 23.5 minimum, so that's all good. And we're ready to start on engine 1, which is a simple case of pressing the start button. We'll jump to outside view and so engine 1 is spooling up. Let's bring in the fuel. And all the instrumentation is in the green. Everything's normal. Let's start on 2, do the same again. And once again, bring in the fuel. So everything is in the green and looking good. Instrumentation is checked, everything's good. Anti-ice not required. External power, let's disconnect external power. So the ground power unit is disconnected now. We'll just check from outside view that that is the case. Yep. And the flight controls: forward, back, left, right, rudder left, and both brakes. They're all free and correct. So that's the start engine checklist complete. We'll move to the next checklist, which is the before taxi. So we don't need any wing anti-ice, not required. Transponder code, let's just set that to 7000, which is VFR. We're not going to file a flight plan with Flight Sim. Once we get in the air, we'll ask ATC to keep their eye on us. They'll assign us a transponder code, and we'll enter that when given by ATC. Flight ID is confirmed. We are Honda 76. The flight plan has been entered. Navigation source actually is at the moment set to VOR1. So I'll change this to FMS. So that's set. Altimeters. Alright, let's get the weather from Naples.
Naples Airport information Alpha 1300 Zulu. Wind 206 at 5. Visibility 6. Sky condition. Few clouds at 2,600 feet. Few clouds at 4,900 feet. Temperature 15. Dew point 10. Altimeter 30.12. ILS X-ray runway 24 in use.
So 3012
Departing runway 24.
and runway 24.
All aircraft read back hold short instructions. Advise controller on initial contact. You have Alpha.
Okay, so we have Alpha 3012 is set, and the altimeter. Flaps was set to the takeoff position. The speed brake we will extend. It says that it's extended, and retract, and they are retracted, so that's checked. Cabin signs, so let's turn on the fasten seatbelts and the no smoking signs. They're now on, and we'll release the parking brake just in a moment. Let's ask for our taxi. So we're going to head south. So
Naples ground Honda 76 request taxi for departure to the south with Alpha.
Honda 76 taxi to and hold short of runway 24 using taxiway Charlie. Contact tower on 120.905 when ready.
So we have our
Short runway 24 using
taxi clearance
Charlie Honda
to
76.
runway 24 using taxiway Charlie, which is pretty much straight in front of us, and up there to the right. And just checking, I've got a cabin oxygen on message, which I haven't seen before, so I'm just checking what's happening here. Cabin oxygen is on. Okay. So I haven't seen this message before. It hasn't gone out. It isn't red. So right, let's jump into the next checklist, which is the taxi checklist. Okay, so once we start moving, we'll check these items on the checklist. So we will release the parking brake, add a little bit of power. We'll move off to the right so that we don't knock him over. So the brakes, let's check the brakes. The brakes work. Nose wheel steering, let's steer to the right, steer to the left, and our flight instrumentation is good. So we can check those items off of the taxi checklist, and we'll move up the before takeoff checks. So I'm just so taxiway is over here. Now, I just realized that I need to go back to our planning and let's have a look and see which. So 29,000 feet for the cruise, so let's dial that in to the autopilot. That's dialed in now. We have the FMS set for our speed control as well. Like I say, we're not following a standard instrument departure today, so it'll be a case of heading straight to the first waypoint once we're up and in the air. So let's run through the before takeoff checks. So the flaps are set, the trims are also set for, the speed brake is retracted. The CAS message as well, we do have one which says that the cabin oxygen is on, but it's blue, so that's fine. Navigation is set, flight guidance is set. We've got our V speeds entered as well. Takeoff briefing is completed. Like I say, no SID, straight to our first waypoint after departure. Radar is not required and ice protection is not required either. So that's the before takeoff checks complete. So once we reach the holding point, we can get our departure clearance and take off. So we're using real world weather, and we did adjust the local time because it's actually it's 7 minutes past 5 in the evening in the UK, so I suppose that's probably 2 hours ahead. It would be dark there right now. I think I set the local time a couple of hours back, so we might lose the daylight in this flight. It's certainly late in the afternoon local time. Actually, it says here UTC is 13:28, so it must be 3:30 in the afternoon local time, which is cool. Alright, we're getting close to the holding point for runway 24. Slow down just a little bit for this bend. And we'll start to apply a little bit of braking as we approach the holding point. And we'll tune to the tower. So it doesn't sound like anyone's talking. So we've done the before takeoff checks, everything's good. We'll have a little look outside. Nothing abnormal from the exterior. So let's ask for our takeoff clearance.
Naples Tower Honda 76 ready for south departure at runway 24.
Honda 76 altimeter, tree 0.1212.
So we're clear for takeoff.
Cleared for takeoff runway 24 Honda.
So what we'll do is we'll switch to map mode. And zoom back out just a little bit. There we go. So a little bit of throttles. So, entering runway 24. Once we've lined up, we'll just align the head and bug. So there we are. So head and select takeoff mode on our throttle. Right, so spool up to 40%. Looks all good. Engine stabilized. Takeoff power set. So we're looking for 113 knots to rotate. That's 113, rotate. And positive rate, gear up.
Honda 76 continue for south departure.
Okay.
Honda 76 leaving my airspace frequency change approved.
So let's select nav and VNAV modes. Auto throttle. Flaps are up. And we are headed towards intersection Deller.
Honda 76 acknowledge last transmission.
Oh, and I forgot to speak to ATC.
Naples Tower, Honda 76 frequency change.
Okay, so the frequency he gave us was 122.1. So let's dial in 122.1 and switch that over. We just got a message there. The yaw damper has popped off, so let's pop that back on. Okay, so before we speak to ATC, let's run through the after takeoff checklists. The landing gear is up, yaw dampener is back on, flaps are up, thrust levers, well, the auto throttle's in now, flight guidance is on, we don't need any ice protection, and we'll leave the cabin signs on for now. So let's have a word with ATC.
ROSAS approach Honda 76 is type 5 miles south of Naples, 5,600 feet. Request flight following.
Honda 76 ROSAS approach. Squawk 6613.
6613. So let's dial that in. 6613. Enter.
Honda 76 radar contact 6 miles south of Naples, 6,900 feet. Altimeter 30.09er.
3009er. So let's change that.
Roger, Honda 76.
So
Honda 76 contact roll center on 131.1.
131.1. So that's dialed in.
for Honda 76.
So we're on 131.1. Let's have a little look behind us. There's the Italian coast. There's Mount Vesuvius just behind us. As we head out over the Med towards Sicily. So let's check in with ATC.
Rome Center, Honda 76, 11,000 feet.
Honda 76 Rome Center altimeter 30.10, continue as planned.
So we're clear to continue from ATC. So we're going to climb up to 29,000, heading south towards Palermo. Just have to keep an eye on things, check out the scenery. So let's have a So we got 28 nautical miles to our first waypoint. Like I say, this is a fairly short in the air flight, somewhere in the region of about 40 minutes. So if we move to the middle and check, there's not a whole much to see on the map view. Everything's in the green in terms of instrumentation, so that's good. Flight directors are on and following the flight management computer's guidance. So just over 1,000 feet we will dial in the standard barometric pressure of 2992. We're still on 3009, which is the pressure at Naples. So that's us past 18,000. So let's dial in 2992. Same again. Oops. Same again in the standby. Some pretty impressive scenery down here on the southwest of Italy. Won't be too much to see as we cross over the Mediterranean towards Palermo in the northwestern part of the island of Sicily. So we're just monitoring the systems, making sure everything is as it is. There's two items to check off on the climb checks. So pressurization is checked and altimeters are set to standard barometric pressure. So that's the climb checks complete. So let's have a look at the systems. So the taxi lights are off, recognition lights off, strobes are on, beacons are on, landing lights are still on, which is unusual. we'll leave them on. These are all automatic or controlled automatically by the aircraft, so there's no issue there. Hydraulics are in the green, as is the oxygen, and our fire bottles are all good. Our environment is set 23. The fans are on, everything's in the green. Electrical, again, everything in the green. Fuel is all good. We've used 310 pounds of fuel already. Hydraulics are all in the green, and no need for any ice protection as yet. So the next checklist is the cruise check, which only has 2 items as well, pretty much exactly the same as the last one. So, alright, we're just a couple of miles from our next waypoint. We'll change to outside view. Maybe change this way around. So that's the coast of Italy disappearing away behind us as we make our way across the Med. Coming up on our turn very, very shortly. There's the aircraft turning. So just over 1,000 feet to run to our cruising altitude. And indeed there is the chime to tell us we have 1,000 feet to go. Okay, on the iPad I'm just going to have a look at the arrival charts for Palermo. So our arrival was a ROSAS 3 Lima. So the arrival, the ROSAS 3 Lima has us start at waypoint ROSAS, which is an intersection at flight level 190. Kind of has us follow a bit of a mad double dogleg arrival or pattern over the sea before we make an approach to runway 25. So let me just check which. Alright, so I'm going to check our flight plan. The last waypoint is Lavru, so that's a good place to start our approach. Alright, yep. So I'm gonna put in a procedure of the approach. So let's look for runway 25, and it's ILS Zulu 25. Transition point is Lavru, so we'll put that in and we'll load that in just now. So we have our everything dialed in. So we're at 29,000 feet now. We've leveled off. Some traffic high and one aircraft either side of us, and we can have a look on our TCAS. So they're far enough away that they're not shown, so that's fine. We'll go back to the map view. They're actually 7,000 feet or such above us, so that won't be a factor. So cruise checks. Altimeters are set standard and the systems are monitored. Landing lights are still on, so let's manually switch them off. Everything's in the green, 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 and no ice protection required, so that's green. So we can check the systems off and enter in the next checklist, which is the descent checklist. So the first item on that is the landing field elevation. So let's have a look on the map, or the chart rather. So airport elevation is 65 feet, the runway is 50 feet. So we can verify that we've checked the landing field elevation, and we'll leave the next items until we're actually in our descent. So the flight management computer is telling us that in just over or just under 2 minutes time we're going to start our descent. So let's have a look at ROSAS. So 190, so let's dial 190 into, and we'll select VNAV, so that at the top of descent point the aircraft will descend automatically. So here is the approach chart. We're starting from the point that's on the third prong at the top on the right hand side of the page. That's intersection ROSAS. We'll make our way down to CGA 422 and then make a kind of dogleggy or a double dogleg towards the airport, which should be interesting to say the least. So that's us reached the top of descent point. So the auto throttle has rolled back and we are starting our descent down to 19,000 feet. ATC was a little bit quiet, or is a little bit quiet. I just checked that I hadn't missed any calls there or had inadvertently changed frequencies, but we're all good. So now that we're in the descent, we can finish this checklist. Engine anti-ice is not required, and the next item of altimeters we will check off once we drop below 18,000 feet. So we're descending at 270 knots, our ground speed is 395, we have a very slight tailwind, more of a crosswind. Let's actually check and see if we can find Palermo Tower. CJ. There we go, Punta Resi. So let's tune to the weather.
Punta Resi Airport information, Kilo 1300 Zulu. Wind 176 at Niner. Visibility, tree. Sky condition, few clouds at 2,700 feet. Temperature, 15. Dew point, 10. Altimeter, tree 0.15. Visual runway 25 in use. Landing and departing runway 25. VFR aircraft say direction of flight. All aircraft read back hold short instructions. Advise controller on initial contact you have Kilo.
Kilo, okay. So,
Razy Tower Honda
and it's
76
runway
is
25.
68 miles northeast flight level 230 with Kilo to land.
Honda 76 Razy Tower. Altimeter tree 0.15 wind 176 at Niner.
3015.
Fly straight in runway 25, Honda 76.
Okay, so we're cleared for a straight in. What we'll do is we'll modify the plan once we're past the initial approach fix, and we'll dial in 3,500 feet. So that's all good. Starting to see Sicily up ahead. So let's see if this will work. Okay, so we're now below 18,000 feet. So we've dialed in 3015, which is the barometric pressure for Palermo. Everything's looking good. Let's just check our flight plan. That looks all good. Right. So passing 15,000 feet, we've got 270 knots, and we've got roughly about 50 nautical miles to run. So we can check our landing speeds. VAP is 110, VREF is 105. So let's put them in. Altimeters are set, so we can finish off the descent checks. Bring up the approach checks, which we will enter a bit closer in. Not sure why that toolbar popped up there, but get rid of that. So ILS frequency is 109.5. Let's dial that in. And the RACI VOR is 113.0. So we'll stick that in the secondary. So it's telling us we've got about 37 miles to go. And the approach course is 244. We'll change that a little bit closer in. This flight is actually part of, it's a part of a round the world trip, round the world in 80 flights. Not the most direct routing round the world, but quite a scenic one. We flew into Naples earlier today from Corsica, or Sardinia rather, sorry, Sardinia, after being in Mallorca. The next flight from Palermo will take us to Athens. This is flight number 12 of the 80 flights. 43,000 nautical miles and 400 and or so flight hours to finish the flight, which started in Farnborough. So no doubt at some point later on I will stream some of the flights that are further along on this round the world tour. So Sicily is, or the northern coast of Sicily is staring us in the face. We're passing 8,500 feet.
Wind 176 at 10. Clear to land runway 25. Clear to land runway 25, Magic Sun 6232.
Bit of a mad wind change there, which caused the engines to spool up. Alright, so let's run through the approach checks. Seats and signs are adjusted and secure. Passenger briefing is complete. Cabin signs, well, we never turned them off, so they're on. Avionics, everything is dialed in and set. Landing data, we have our VAP and VREF, so that's set and confirmed. Cast messages, we still have the cabin oxygen, but that's fine. The approach briefing, we ran through the approach earlier, that's fine. And a little bit closer in, we'll set the approach flap and close off the approach check. So I can see an aircraft ahead of us. I did hear someone. I wasn't paying massive amounts of attention to ATC, but we may very well end up being second in the queue, so we might want to slow down. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select manual for the speed, and let's bring the speed right down so that we don't end up jamming up behind other traffic. Right, so I'm going to select heading mode for now. We'll change the nav source to localizer 1. 244 is the course, so let's dial that in. 244, that's in. And we do indeed have the localizer. I can see the runway on our 1 o'clock position. So we'll reselect nav mode, indeed approach mode, because we're bang on the glide. We are indeed number 2 to traffic ahead of us, so we'll bring the speed back as much as possible. And that's us lined up on final. And we'll set the flaps to approach. We can close off the checklist. And aircraft is throttling back up to compensate for the drag of the flaps. Right. So here there's Sicily over there, looking rather splendid. Okay, so our go around altitude, should we have to fly a missed approach, is 3,000 feet. So we'll dial that in just in case. We're nice and slow behind the landing traffic. Should hopefully clear the runway before us. So we've got 8 miles to run. So we'll have the gear down and full flap. We'll slow to our approach speed, +10. And we'll run through the before landing checks. So the landing gear is down, speed brake is retracted, flaps are set for approach or landing, airspeed is VREF +10, and the autopilot we will bring out a little bit closer in. I hope this traffic ahead of us clears. I'm going to land anyway. He's far enough ahead of us. and you can't lose your pilot's license if you don't have one and you're on flight sim, which is good. So
Honda 76, follow the aircraft on the runway. Wind 177 at 10.
177 at 10, so we got a very slight crosswind from the left,
Clear to land.
but that's us clear to land.
Honda 76.
Set the heading bug, and let's just check the missed approach. So as soon as possible, turn right 290,
Magic Sun.
join and follow the 322 radial from the racy VOR, climb it to 3000 and be vectored from there by ATC. So we're coming up on 1,000 feet. We're on the glide, just ever so slightly to the right of center.
Magic Sun 6232, contact ground on 121.
So that's him cleared the runway, so that's good. So
1000.
1,000. So let's disconnect the autopilot.
121.625 Magic Sun 6232.
Okay. So we're all stable. Approach looks good.
400. 300. 200.
A little bit of crosswind from that mountain, or the effect of the mountain.
100. 50. 40. 30. 20. 10. 5.
Just missed that taxiway.
Next taxiway.
Alright. Well, the next taxiway is just a little bit up here, and that's fine. So, let's clear out the landing checks. After landing checks, cabin signs are still on. Anti-ice not required. Speed brake is retracted. Flaps are up. And the trims are in the green band, so that's good. So we're going to exit here to the right. This controller doesn't have much patience, but so we'll enter exit here to the right.
Honda 76, contact ground on 121.625.
121.625.
121.625, Honda 76.
121. 625.
Palermo Airport information, Kilo 1400 Zulu. Wind 1.
Alright, we're not going to bother asking for taxi to park, and we'll just find somewhere to park ourselves. Just take a look. There's another aircraft just landed behind us as well. Just a fairly busy airport. Let's take a right here. There's quite a lot of traffic on the ground. We'll just find our own gate and park. Let's have a little look from outside view some of the scenery. Nicola and I actually flew out of here a few years back. We didn't fly in here. We flew down from Rome to a place on the very southern tip of the mainland called Reggio Calabria, and then we took the we took the train, or we took a ferry and then took the train to Palermo, which is a lovely place. So let's turn into the left here. Quite a lot of large airline traffic around. What we'll do is, hopefully there's a parking space on the other side of this aircraft up here on my left. If not, we'll just abandon it anyway. There's a parking space here to the left, I think. Park up beside this A330 and feel tiny. Right. So we're coming up on the stop line. So we'll gently apply the brakes and come to a stop. We'll apply the parking brake. So after landing checklists are complete, the only one left is the shutdown. So the parking brake we just set. The wheel chocks are or will be installed. Engine anti-ice was never required anyway, so it's off. External power we won't require. Thrust levers cut off. So let's cut off. And cabin signs. Let's we can turn the fasten seatbelt and the no smoking signs off. Oxygen supply, we'll pull that off. Parking brake, we will now release. The other thing that we can do here is we will open the main door, the cargo door, the front cargo door. And attach a ground power unit, and the last thing to do is to turn off the battery and end the flight. So that was Naples to Palermo, very short flight, 36 minutes 18 seconds, block to block. And I hope this worked. I hope you enjoyed the flight. Thank you. and bye bye.